1-2 semester is around the corner, so I am getting into the 1-2 syllabus. 1-2 syllabus first subject is HAP, I mean by Human Anatomy and Physiology 2. It contains 5 units. Let's see about first unit. First unit is nervous system, which is covered by 11 topics, which involves introduction, classification of nervous system, neuron, neuroglia, classification and properties of nerve fiber, electrophysiology, action potential, nerve impulse, receptor, synapse and neurotransmitters. First unit, nervous system, introduction part. The nervous system is the major controlling, regulatory and communicating system in the body. It is the center of all mental activity including thought, learning and memory. The nervous system is responsible for regulating and maintaining homeostasis. The nervous system is classified into two major classes. One is the central nervous system and second one is the peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system involves it consists of brain present in the cranial cavity and the spinal cord present in the vertebral column. The spinal cord has the 32 segment and the brain consists of brainstem, diencephalon, cerebellum and cerebrum. Brain and spinal cord is divided into two parts. Brain is forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. And spinal cord is divided into peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system connect to the brain and the spinal cord and to the rest of the body and the external environment. First, cranial nerves, spinal nerves and autonomic nervous system. Neurons. Neurons helps in reception or production, conduction and transmission of messages in the form of an electrical signal. Structure of neurons. Structure of neuron involves a cell body, axon, dendrites. First one, cell body. Cell body is also known as soma. The cell body is the core section of the neuron. The cell body contains the genetic information which maintains the neuron's structure and provides energy to the drive activities. And the second one is axon. Axon is a long tail-like structure. It joins to the cell body at the specialized junction called axon hillock. Many axons are insulated with a fatty substance called myelin. Myelin helps axons to conduct an electrical signal. Next part is dendrites. Dendrites are fibrous roots that branch out from the cell body. Like antenna, dendrites receives and process the signals from axons to the other axons. The neurons have one or more than set of dendrites known as the dendritic trees. The structure of neuron is just like a tree structure. The structure is a nucleus or soma. Dendrites are like tree branches which send signals to the each other part. Junction where the axons are connected, it is called axon hillock. It is also known as the specialized junction, and the edge of the axons is called axon terminals. Neuroglia. Neuroglia is closely associated with the neurons, more numerous but smaller in size. They are the support of neurons and other important and unique functions. The neuroglia comprises with the 6 types of cells depending on their location, structure and the function. 4 types are in the CNS, means central nervous system. 2 types are in sympathetic nervous system. Peripheral nervous system involves satellite cells and Schwann cells. Central nervous system involves microglia, epidermal cells, oligodendrites and astrocytes. Nerve fibers can be classified based on different criteria. Histologically, functionally, based on the conduction velocity, based on the type of neurotransmitter. First type, histologically as myelinated or non. Second one, functionally as afferent, means sensory, or efferent, means motor, which is known as Geiser's or Erland's classification. Fourth one, based on the type of neurotransmitter released from their terminals, as adrenergic, cholinergic, dopaminergic, etc. There are 3 examples of nerve fibers are given below. First one is unmyelinated fiber A, partially myelinated fiber B, fully myelinated fiber C. Between the A and B, we can see the individual axons. Properties of nerve fiber involves excitability, conductivity, refractory period, all or Nunn law. Excitability is when its stimulus is applied, the nerve fiber demonstrates a change in its electrical activity from its resting state. Conductivity. It is the ability of the nerve fiber to transmit impulses all along the whole of axon without any change in the amplitude on the action potential. Refractory period. It is the duration after an active impulse when a second stimulus is applied. There will be no response for the second stimulus. All or none law. When a tissue is stimulated with a threshold or more than threshold strength, amplitude of response will remain the same, but the stimulus of less than threshold strength, there will not be any response. Next, action potential. The resting membrane potential changes suddenly, quickly, transitorily, and propagative when an action potential occurs. An action potential can be generated only by neurons and muscle cells. A property is known as excitability. All signals originate from the action potential. The neurons generate and conduct these signals along their processes. In order to transmit these signals to the target tissues, a stimulus will either active them in some way or inhibit them or modulate them. Next, nerve impulse. An electrical signal that travels along the nerve fiber in response to a stimulus and serves to transmit a record of sensation from a receptor or an instruction to act an effector. Steps of nerve impulse. There are 3 steps for nerve impulse. First one is polarized, second one depolarization, third one repolarized. First one polarized. Resting neuron inside the membrane is slightly, outside the membrane is slightly. Most membrane channels are closed. There is some normal diffusion of potassium or sodium between the cell and the environment through the sodium or potassium pump. Active transport stimulus occurs. Next, depolarization involves the active neuron. Sodium channels opening allows to the sodium diffusion into the cells quickly. Repolarization is normalization of cells where the potassium gates are open in order to allow the potassium to diffuse out of the cell. Next, receptors. Receptors are the biological transducers that converts energy from both the external and the internal environments into the electrical impulses. There are different types of receptors based on the activity. There are 5 types of receptors. First one chemoreceptor, second one thermoreceptor, third one mechanoreceptors, fourth one photoreceptors, fifth one sensory receptors. Chemoreceptors. Chemoreceptors are also known as chemosensors, which is specialized sensory receptor cells which transduce a chemical substances to generate a biological signal. Second one, thermoreceptor. A thermoreceptor is a non-specialized sensor receptor, or more accurately, receptive portion of sensory neuron. Third one, mechanoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors are a type of somatosensory receptor which relay extracellular stimulus into the intracellular signal transduction through mechanically gated ion channels. Fourth one, photoreceptors. Photoreceptors contains proteins that turn light energy into electrochemical signals, allowing cells in our nervous system to make the sense of the visual world. One, sensory receptors. Sensory receptors comprise specialized cells close to neurons or neuron endings, which are the part of afferent neurons and send in signals to the central nervous system and brain for the processing and integration. Types of sensory receptors: free nerve endings or dendrites, encapsulated nerve endings, specialized receptor cells. Next, synapse. And synapse is a junction between neuronal cells that permits communication between them. A chemical messenger is called neurotransmitter, which transmits the messages from the presynaptic neuron to the postsynaptic neuron. Types of synapse: chemical synapse and electrical synapse. A chemical synapse is formed when the neurotransmitters or the chemical messengers are released by the presynaptic neurons. Second one, electrical synapse. As voltage changes occurs between the presynaptic cell and postsynaptic cell. Neurotransmitters. Our bodies are filled with chemical messengers known as neurotransmitters. Functions the brain regulates with the neurotransmitters are digestion, sleep cycle, appetite, mood, breathing, heart rate. Types of neurotransmitters. There are two types of neurotransmitters are there. Excitatory neurotransmitter. Next one, inhibitory neurotransmitter. Excitatory neurotransmitter target cells are stimulated to act by neurotransmitters. Inhibitory neurotransmitter reduces the likelihood that the target cell in will act. Several neurons can be sent messages by the modulatory neurotransmitters at the same time. First one, excitatory neurotransmitters. Target cells are stimulated to act by the neurotransmitters. Examples of excitatory transmitter: glutamate. Glutamate is typically synthesized within the neurons from the glutamine and is the most abundant neurotransmitter in the brain. It is an excitatory neurotransmitter and binds four different receptors: NMDA receptor, AMPA receptor, kinase receptor. Aspartate stimulates NMDA receptor through not as strongly as the amino acid neurotransmitter glutamate does. Second one, inhibitory neurotransmitter GABA. GABA is synthesized by glutamate and it is an inhibitory neurotransmitter within the CNS. It binds to different receptors: GABA A receptor, GABA B receptors. Glycine. Glycine is an amino acid which is used for the majority of inhibitory synapses in the spinal cord and the brainstem. It binds to an ionotropic receptors which are permeable to the chloride and bicarbonate ions. Next, dopamine. Dopamine system plays a central role in several significant medical conditions including Parkinson's diseases, attention defect, hyperactivity disorder, Tourette syndrome, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder and addiction. Third one, both inhibitory neurotransmitter and excitatory neurotransmitter which involves the acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is used in both the central and the peripheral nervous system. In the particular at the NM, it is synthesized in the neurons from the choline and the acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is an excitatory neurotransmitter and binds to different receptors: nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, muscarinic acetylcholine receptors. Noradrenaline is widely classified as sympathomimetic receptor and function is both in CNS and ANS. Next, serotonin. It is an monoamine transmitter. Its biological function is complex and multifaceted, modulating mood, cognition, reward, learning, memory, and numerous psychological processes such as vomiting and vasoconstriction. For more updates, Pharmapro.edu.